This recording is going to cover the general instructions for the court brief assignment. So let's start by making sure you have the right document out in front of you. It should say General Instructions, Court Brief Assignment, Sidney versus Reinhart. You should have available on Brightspace both a PDF version and a Word version. Ultimately, you're going to need both, but for today's recording, you need the PDF version, which has annotations on it. Let's start by that first paragraph, which is a quick factual summary of the dispute. And we have plaintiff Harriet Sidney and defendant Garrett Reinhart. You will see the first annotation there is some highlighting that points out Reinhart has filed a motion for summary adjudication of the bystander negligent infliction of emotional distress cause of action. A motion for summary adjudication dismisses a single cause of action, not the entire lawsuit. More particularly, it is going to be related to the contemporaneous awareness requirement that bystander negligent infliction of emotional distress requires. You're going to want to start with the Witkin excerpt and with the Coe and Thing cases, all of which are available on Brightspace. Witkin is a secondary authority, which is basically a summary or an overview of the cases and issues in a particular area of law. Read together with Coe and Thing, it'll give you a very good understanding of the basic legal issue here and what you will need to be looking for. The next annotation is in green highlighting. There are important limits here. You may only use the facts and law that are on Brightspace. Please don't go looking for other things. Next up is your assignments and deadlines, and that is on the bottom of page 1, and it will take us on to page 2. We're going to write a persuasive email. You're going to do an oral argument. And then eventually, going on to page 2 of the document, you're going to write a points and authorities or a court brief. And you will see here that I've highlighted for you, you're going to turn it in 4 different ways. And the green annotation at the bottom tells you why. These steps mirror a small part of what lawyers do when filing actual court documents. When you file a court document, you have to provide it to the other side. You often have to provide a courtesy copy for your judge. And of course, you have to submit it or file it through the filing window in the courthouse or electronically, how most filing is done now. So you will see that the first 2 steps are going to be very familiar to you. You're going to submit your document on Brightspace, and you're also going to submit your document through the link on Brightspace. You will eventually provide a copy for your judge, which will be uploaded on Box. We'll talk about that later. And you will email a copy to your oral argument opposing counsel. Again, all the details will happen later, but just big picture up front, know that the points and authorities has lots of technical requirements to submit it and serve it. And it is designed to mirror how you actually would do these things with a real court document. Now that takes us on to page 3, which is all the important information you need about the content and format of your motion. A motion in California does start with a cover sheet, and it's a simple formal document that basically explains to the court and to your opponent what you are moving for. The most important thing to know about this cover sheet is highlighted there for you in yellow. It will be provided for you. So this will show up later on Brightspace. You don't need it right now, but you will attach that document first. Next up will be a table of contents. We're going to talk about that and show you the format in just a second. Below that is a reminder to pay careful attention to the capitalization, spacing, and font requirements for the point headings. And again, there's some information here about where you can see examples in the course reader, but we're also going to look at it on the next page in the table of contents as well. Next up is citations. Nothing unusual here. We'll still be able to choose between ALWD Blue Book format or California Style Manual, your choice. What will be new and different is that facts must be cited. In the statement of facts, you have to reference where you got that fact from. And you'll see in yellow there is an example for the Reinhart deposition. It says Reinhart Depot, abbreviated DEPO, period, 4:18-20, period. That is a citation to the record. It is telling me that you retrieved that information in the Reinhart deposition excerpt on page 4, lines 18 to 20. Exhibits must also be cited. For exhibits, most lawyers typically use EX. I also like to use EXH, but that's just my personal preference. I like exhibit with an H instead because EX to me looks like example. So if you choose one. You may use either, but be consistent. So if you reference an exhibit, you do so simply by saying EX period 1 or EXH period 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., however many exhibits your particular case has. Toward the end of your points and authorities, you will have a signature block. Again, there's a course reader example here cited for you. There also is a couple of reminders on this page about paper and spacing. The bulk of the points and authorities will be double spaced. Point headings, however, are single spaced in both the table of contents and in the body of the points and authorities document. Page numbering is a little tricky. You use Arabic numbers for the points and authorities. So you'll see the note there that I've annotated for you. The points and authorities should start with a standard Arabic number 1. The page with your introduction should be that page 1. The table of contents and cover page should not have these Arabic numbers. So you don't want to start page 1 with your cover page and then page 2 for a table of contents, because that would put your points and authorities starting at page 3 or 4, and that's incorrect. So it is optional to put any page numbers at all on your cover page and table of contents, but if you want to, they are traditionally done in the little I. So you'll see I've written the format there for you in the annotation. It's completely optional if you want to annotate your table of contents. If it's a single page, it would be a single I. If it goes 2 pages, the first one would be single I, the second one would be double I. You've probably seen this in the front of textbooks. And last but not least on this page is a reminder that the word count must not exceed 3,800 words. And you'll see an annotation here that says this is similar to the CRC. That stands for the California Rules of Court. And the California Rules of Court, typically memorandums or of points and authorities in support of a motion are 15 pages. Longer summary judgment type motions can be up to 20 pages. 3,800 words is something in the neighborhood of about 15 pages, so it is close to the kind of page limit you would actually face in a real court document of this type. So that 3,800 words does not apply to the cover sheet, the table of contents, or the word count certification. It applies only to the memorandum of points and authorities. So from your title, memo of points and authorities, and then until the end of the signature block on the last page, that's where your word count is in play, and it is 3,800. You must not go over. Documents that exceed the word count can be objected to. They also can be rejected by the court. All kinds of terrible things can happen, not the least of which is your document may be considered untimely or deemed unfiled. So no exceeding the word count. 3,800, absolute max. And you will have a word count certification, much like we've been doing, and that will be similar to what you've been doing before. You will see at the bottom of the page there in the green highlighting is follow the sample format on the next pages to bring all these rules together. Each of these rules here on this page just reminds you of important things to do and things that are typically mistakes that young legal writers make. So what does it actually look like? Well, let's go on to page 4, and you will see there that this is where the table of contents starts. Now, the first annotation there in pink says use the Word doc version. And the Word document version that you want to use now is because you're going to actually be able to use this document to format your own paper. So you could open the Word document and then change the point headings to be your actual point headings. You will keep it where it says table of contents, introduction, statement of facts, but where it says 3, major point heading, you will actually put in your major point heading for this particular case. And your remaining point headings, A1 and 2, B1 and 2, or maybe a C, or maybe a 3, or maybe no subheadings at all, just A, B, and C. There's lots of different ways, and you'll see that in the course reader. There's lots of different ways to approach point headings. But what you can do is use this document to make sure you format them properly. And you will see that the major point headings are in all caps. You will see that minor point headings are in title case, and you will see that subheadings I have italicized. I prefer to use subheadings in italics because I believe it makes them stand out better and not blend into the text too much. Other people do not like to use italics, and you will work for folks who will have different opinions. For this class, follow this format. You will notice there are some notes at the bottom of the page. The point headings do not run into the page number column. And you'll see I've drawn a blue line there where you can see the farthest the second subheading goes out is to the word to in subheading A2. It does not run all the way into the numbers. That is important so that your table of contents is easy to use and read. Each of those page numbers will need to be filled in for where that point heading first occurs in your document. And you will do that without running your point headings into that column. You will need to stop them so that it is neat and easy to read. You will use bold for your point headings in your points and authorities, but not in your table of contents. And again, as I mentioned before, I prefer italics to differentiate the subheadings. You may work for others who have different preferences. For this paper, use this format. So again, there's a Word document version on Brightspace, and that is going to let you use that document to create your own. It will save you a lot of time. So the cover page will be given to you. The table of contents, you will create your own. And then let's go to page 5, and that's where the real heart of the court document starts, which is the Memorandum of Points and Authorities. You will have that actual title, Memorandum of Points and Authorities, at the top of your points and authorities. You will then have your first point heading, Introduction. You see a note there, it'll be less than a page. Introductions can be anything from a few paragraphs to 2/3 of a page, but in a document of this size, going over a page will be too long. So use that as your rule of thumb. And if you want help on the content and how to create your introduction, remember to go back to our fall week 15 slides and your lecture notes. You will find everything you need there about introductions. Second will be your statement of facts. Now, statement of facts will be the same in one regard that you will already know from memo writing, and that is the annotation that's in red. Every fact used in your argument must be in your statement of facts. If the court cannot find the fact in the record and cited properly in your statement of facts, it is not properly before the court. This is very important. So it is important to get both all your facts in the statement of facts, and it is also important to make sure that you get your citations to the record in your statement of facts. And you can go back to page 3 for that format as I've annotated there in yellow. You will also remember from our statement of facts that sometimes you have some background facts as well that may not be legally significant, but are important to telling your story or theme. Those will also be in your statement of facts. Next up is your major point headings. This is where your actual argument starts. So your first point heading will be your big picture, broadest point heading. This will be, if you are the defendant, why the motion for summary adjudication should be granted. If you are the plaintiff, a major point heading will be why the motion for summary adjudication should be denied. Then you will have your thesis or roadmap, and that's in the green annotation there. That is between your Roman numeral 3 major point heading and your first minor point heading, letter A. And that's where your thesis or roadmap paragraph will go. And that's very similar to the kinds of introductions and roadmap paragraphs we have written in memos and emails. This is where you overview for the court what your argument is. Then you will see your point headings begin. Point headings A, a minor point heading, and then perhaps some subheadings like Arabic numbers 1 and 2. Now, you will notice a couple of important things here. I've made an annotation in blue. A, B, and C, question mark. Maybe you'll have 3. Maybe you'll have 2. Here's a rule of thumb to remember. More than 3 point headings, an absolute maximum of 4 perhaps, you are getting to the max that will fit in the page number and word count that you are working within here. So think about A, B, and C, or an A and a B, or perhaps an A, B, C, and D, but no more than that. Once you start getting into E, F level point headings, you have too many, something is wrong. Now, whether or not you will have subheadings, as in Arabic numbers 1 and 2, the ones that are italicized here on the document, you'll see I have an annotation in blue, or none. Sometimes your level B argument or your level A argument might just have a minor point heading, and a CRAC under it. Other times, your point heading A or B or C might have two CRACs under it, and that's why you will see sometimes there will be those first and second subheadings, sometimes there will not. It is important to note, which you will see under point heading A1, that it says, note the first line of the paragraph is indented only one tab, even though that subheading is indented two tabs, and the entire paragraph is not indented. So again, make sure you see this. This is important to formatting your paper correctly, and this is a common mistake. The first line of the paragraph is indented only one tab, even though the subheading is indented two tabs, and the entire paragraph is not indented. So make sure that you do not use a formatting that pulls all of your text in. It will make your points and authorities look very strange. So how many point headings you will have, we will talk about that more in class, but your structure will be in this format. Whether you underline your point A and point B headings is something that lawyers can disagree about. The italics is something lawyers can disagree about. I've given you this format because it's easy and it's consistent. So use this. You will have your final point heading will be number 4, conclusion. This will be about one paragraph, as I've annotated there in green for you. And there's a reference to the course reader page, which has a content checklist and a sample conclusion that you will use. You then need to have the rest of your what's called signature block, which is the date, which will be March 19th, 2023. And at the very end, you will also have your signature block, which contains the law firm name in all caps at the top. By, which is a place where you leave a line for an actual signature. Underneath that, you will type your student name or your ID number. Going back to page 2, you will remember there's lots of ways that we're going to submit this document. Some of them are going to have your name on them for the judge and your opponent. Other copies will have your ID number on it for me to grade. So that will vary. You will see my annotation there that says edit to your client. So if you represent the plaintiff, your signature block will say attorney for plaintiff, Harriet Sidney. If you represent the defendant, you will edit this to say attorney for defendant, Garrett Reinhardt. And as for the law firm name in all caps, we will pick that later. We will be meeting in class various times with all plaintiffs' lawyers together and all defense lawyers together. We will have a team of each in our class, and we will come up with a firm name. But I will put a little asterisk here in the annotations to remind you, many of you will use this as a writing sample, so we do not want a law firm name that, while it might sound hysterical, is not professional. So we'll probably end up picking something boring, but at the same time, you will know the proper format, which is the law firm name in all caps, and then attorney and the party you represent and the name of your client. And that is the end of the signature block, which is the end of the points and authorities. So what do you need to do? You need to make sure that you use this document carefully to comply with all of these rules, restrictions, format, and structure. You also want to use this document in Word format to try to minimize the amount of time that the formatting and structuring will take you. And of course, last but not least, use this document as you approach each section of the paper as a good starting place to remind you of what goes in there and where it goes in your paper.